I want to talk about sanctions and why they don't work, and reverse sanctions and how they could work. Uh, there, there was a lot of reaction in recent times, the last week or two, about all the sanctions the United States put on Iran, and I see some of the reactions of the Iranian politicians, and it's kind of similar to the reaction of the Russian politicians, or particularly Putin. But I also saw the cartoon. I think I have the cartoon on my website on Facebook. That there's like all this mob is gathering around the Khamenei place, and they're saying make Iran great again. But I think a lot of Iranian politicians, they know that these sanctions, they don't work, and they have gone through this before, and there's so many ways of circumventing them, or just walking by them, that is more like their effort to calm people down, because a lot of people, they don't really know the level of technological development or military development, or even the extent of the money and resources the government has, Iranian government has. So they're still a little bit behind the curve, and they react very strongly to the notice of sanctions. Oh my God, the big bad America is putting sanctions. We should be so afraid. We're gonna starve to death. But when you listen to Khamenei, or other politicians, it sounds more like a big yawn. Like oh yeah, okay, again we got this going on, and it might even be kind of helpful to the government, kind of unite the people, and I think it helps the hardliners in Iran. The similar reaction I saw with Putin is like he just they barely mention sanctions that the United States put on Russia. Like, please don't tell us that you're going to sanction. What is it that we are not going to be able to get? I hear almost no reaction from the Russians about sanctions. I think there was one very delayed kind of reaction, that the Russians put sanctions or reverse sanctions on the Europeans, and they weren't importing some French wine or cheese, and I think that the French are the unluckiest Europeans, because they get their asses kicked from both sides. But that's just nasty. I read some reports that a lot of French specialty boutiques, or restaurants, or people places that make cheese, they have lost business or going out of business, and the farmers also were complaining, because the stupid EU is going along with the United States and sanctioning Russians, so they had lost some business, and then Putin came out and said that, hey, you should the Russians should go back to their own agriculture. Russia is a huge place, and they have a lot of agricultural machinery and techniques and all that. I think they simply went back and made more of whatever that they were making, or tried to make specialty stuff. The French, I think usually the rich, that Iranians or the rich Russians that like exotic stuff, like fine wine, or like nice cars, like Mercedes Benz, stuff that's luxury goods. They're not something that Iran or Russia produces on its own, and then prevent them from getting those things. But that's only a temporary, because then all kinds of black market byways come around and sell the same stuff, just a little bit higher price. I don't think even many of these sanctioned products are ending up in black market, because everybody is making stuff. Everybody's making cars. Everybody's making wine. Everybody's making cheese. So it just is a big yawn. But I guess some Iranians remember the hardship that was on them before. This is just the force of history. It really doesn't mean anything much. I think that many Iranian politicians, they know that this is going to just fizzle away or fizzle out. Anyhow, there was some videos on YouTube and showed that Iran makes its own agricultural machinery, a lot of machinery, and the Russians, they make anything. And in fact, Iran is very industrialized, and the Iranian engineers, they make just about anything. The other thing I noticed is that I was watching some video on Iran's anti-aircraft systems, and I was reading the titles. It was saying that a lot of these systems, and they also have S-300, or equivalently manufactured S-300s or higher. Also, they had many other systems that, for example, they had bought. I think there was SAM anti-aircraft, and there were old Soviet ones. And many of these titles said that, oh, hey, we just produce these ourselves. There's a huge production of them. Some of them were very exotic looking. And then because this industrialization has gone on for so long, since Iranian Revolution, say 40 years ago, and was accelerated and induced by the war and the tremendous need to be able to re-engineer or remanufacture many systems, military or otherwise. There is a plethora of systems, that plethora of tanks or anti-aircraft and electronic warfare systems and radars. Iran has been able to buy them from China or from Russia. Many countries are very willing to sell those things, and they're not expensive, and their economy needs that to be able to sell these weapons. And that's just the beginning. I won't talk about the rockets. Iran also makes its own, and another thing that shows capability is that they capture one U.S. stealth drone, RQ. I think it was RQ-170, and I was watching the videos that remanufactured this very advanced drone, and I saw many copies of it, and the commentator was saying that this is just one of the bases that they have all these drones, and that was just one drone that was captured. There were many of them, and they had replicated them, who knows what else they have made up on their own. I saw drones that engineered from scratch themselves. So if well, Iran has a lot of agricultural land, its own machinery. If people are not going to go hungry or miss lunches, and then they have enough weapons and very advanced weapons to defend themselves, then the next item on the agenda would be medical technologies and medicines. And I just have very hard time believing that Iran would really be very hard pressed to get these medicines. It manufactures a lot of its own medicines. I was watching one video that some U.S. Marines in Afghanistan that got snake bites, and the only place that they could get the serum for these bites was in Iran, because Iranians had manufactured the serum that deals with this bite from local snakes by studying them. I see advances in nanotechnology and in medical technology, and I just have very hard time believing that these U.S. sanctions will actually or absolutely do anything to Iranians, even low-income Iranians. Well, that's just the beginning of now, because these animosities and hostility have been going on for many, many years, since or even before Iran-Iraq war, 40 years ago, 35 years ago, and Iran had to try to get many supplies or stuff from many different countries, and it has very good relations with many countries in the world. I just gonna mention some, like Vietnam or Korea, both Koreas, and China has excellent relations with Russia, and it has very good relations with like Iraq or Afghanistan, or many Arab countries would sell to Iran. I was watching another video that a Ukrainian company had helped Iran build passenger planes. I think they were calling it something 129 that could carry like 50 passengers. Well,